framework that can get us all focused and anchored, and we need to all understand them, but we need to start to understand also where we can contribute for in each of those goals, and the ones we can touch and make a difference in, and work with the right actors on the ground. And as Noha was saying, it's collective action, but it's also on the ground, in the grassroots. We need to find the right people and hopefully start to gather sufficient data, so all the individual initiatives don't go to waste, and they're much more organized, so that we can have a better, more collective success, and move the needle on what needs to be moved. So we're all living in a better world, hopefully soon. Thank you, Heleniq, so much for allowing me this intervention.
Khada, you are a force of nature, very much like the other Egyptian ladies I have met recently. Thank you so much for your contribution. It's great that you made some time to pop up and share with us. You brought it back to data. I was waiting if you were going to say something about that, because that's where you came in. So if we just really troubleshoot this one question and see what your opinion is, what do you think the biggest contribution could be when it comes to something like data? Like, what kind of data? We heard from Noha that it needs to be more comprehensive and more accurate. Do you have anything to say about the data itself? What kind of research and what kind of projects would really help? There's so many different areas to research. So when we look at one or two really significant ones that can have this domino effect on many of the others, what would you say to that question? What kind of data do we need? If we were to pick top three, you know, I know there's millions, but what kind of top three issues do you think we need most data on, most comprehensive data?
So, I mean, I think if this question is directed to me, because I had an in and out, the first intervention we need is truly, we need an assessment, need assessment overall. I mean, if we're taking this to the level of Vision 2030 for each country, and each government is identifying which goals, which indicators and KPIs they would be using. What is not happening is the distribution of role, is an alignment with all the other actors. So first you need to assess the needs, and then you need to start to distribute how you're going to achieve the roles for the KPIs to be achieved, and then monitor progress by audience. And I mean, we don't have maps that are linking up, data maps that are linking up for even on the social networks that we have and nets that we have. There are 4 or 5 different databases that exist in Egypt, and they're all good ones, but we don't have a centralized data that can help us identify those who are vulnerable, and what kinds of interventions are they receiving from different actors, so that you can really become much more efficient in what you do and can monitor the impact and then continue to improve. So I think one is assessing, it's linking up databases that are existing, asking the right questions to assess what the needs are, and distributing roles, and then monitoring, so that you can later on, as we do in every business that we all enter, whether you're a startup or a large company or an individual trying to plan your life. I mean, you continue to reassess progress and monitor that, and then define new intervention ways and methods and strategies that you can do in collaboration with the right actors. And I think it's just, while we all know it, it's just not happening. We're not seeing the dots connected on the ground in terms of the data, whether it's in what's compiled or how it is used to identify interventions, to monitor progress, and then realign and adjust yourself, which is the basics. So I think it's on those levels. I think it's also listening to all the right audiences. Right now, a lot of decisions are made at a level where you're not on the ground interacting, interfacing, listening to the affected, the needy, and taking the voice of the refugees, taking the voice, all these voices, to say, you know what, they need upskilling, reskilling, retooling. If I don't identify what is required for success and work on it, we'll continue to have the same other goals set after 2030. Or we need to get to the core of the problems, as one of the esteemed speakers was saying. And if we don't address that, we will have another set of goals by the UN. So I think it's who you ask, what you monitor, and then going back and making sure you continue to, once you distributed the roles, monitor progress and continue to readdress and refine your work.
Is it okay if I steal your title, Sustainability Revolution, or do you want me to give you credit for it?
Whatever you feel like. I think the more important is we all feel it and start to act on it.
We're actually talking with Dr. Haidi about giving everybody the project to write 300 words about their contribution to today's summit, collecting that and putting it into a few magazines to really carry this voice even further. And there will be many more ripple-on effects that we have to achieve with that. So if any of you are thinking what more you can do or how you make this more significant, that's what we're proposing. And we would like a photo of you, your bio, and a little bit about your title, and also what brings you to this work, what brought you to this summit specifically. And then I'm wondering, Ghada, if we call it Sustainability Revolution, and then we will start talking with you first so that we know that we're crediting you, because it would be a great title. And I think I agree with you. There's such a big paradigm shift now, and it's a huge gap. And we do stand the risk, however, of filling that gap with a lot of negativity and worry. And there are definitely losses and great gravity in this situation, impacts that we have to cope with. But part of that is change, and change requires that. So there is a very big point that I've wanted to bring into this summit, and I'm always looking at when is the right time. But I'm going to introduce it a little bit here, and then we can keep discussing and move actually on now to 4 and 5, where we can begin to look more at education and gender. But I think the big question, it's like the elephant in the room, and it really needs attention, and it needs more than that. What the Dalai Lama said years ago is the compassion and the expertise of the modern woman really supporting those voices that are not heard, but also in that role as female leaders, we have a responsibility. And I think many of us realize that, and that's why we're here. But the bigger problem or shadow of all of this work, and always has been for centuries, and will continue to be, I think, in many ways, is that not all of society is at the same level of awareness and cannot necessarily become so. And there is extensive theory and research on this by Ken Wilber, who also recently fell from grace. He's not the kind of theorist he used to be, but his initial work on this is incomparable to anyone else. And there are many others who echo the same thinking. And this is, I think, what we have to try to negotiate as women leaders who are concerned in this way and who have this kind of attention and care and nurturing for society, is that there is probably half of the population, if not more. And I think in Ken Wilber's work, his whole intention was to test and do the research, sociologically speaking, on how many of us on the planet are interested in the needs and rights of all people. Because on an awareness level, psychologically speaking, we may not all be considering our responsibility to others in that way. So that's been measured. And unfortunately, there is a huge mass of people that really, prior to COVID, and I'm very happy to be able to say this now, actually, didn't really care very much or didn't know really how to go to work in all of these different comprehensive, integrative, really caring about humanity kind of ways. It was always a drop in the ocean. And I think in some senses, in the cosmic design of things, this is my opinion, it is such. This is how consciousness evolves. So having said that, that means we are on the planet with many people, for whatever reason. It could be out of ignorance, it could be out of greed, it could be out of outright evil, it could be out of a different opinion, it could be a misguided attempt, it could be very well intended but just doesn't do it at all. There is a huge amount of people on the planet post-COVID as well that are probably not going to be aligning with SDG goals and probably don't know that they're going to make a contribution, or maybe just outright refuse. And somehow our work has to also negotiate with that. And I mean negotiate with it on the multiple levels as well. So what Ken Wilber's work on spiral dynamics does is his whole theory is testing if there is enough percentage of people who do care to actually shift the pendulum to swing in the other direction. So that's the critical mass theory, and we're really needing to reevaluate post-COVID if that is the case, because as with great change, there is great opportunity. Adversity is the mother of invention, is what I say. It's the mother of creativity. I see it in Africa all the time. The less you have, the more you create. And yes, also you suffer. So after COVID, there are going to be a lot of people very afraid, very angry, and psychologically speaking, very deeply drained, unable to take this kind of comprehensive, integrative action. There are going to be people that just absolutely cannot for whatever reason. There are going to be those who outright refuse. And there are going to be those who choose to do it differently, to do it a little better maybe, or to try and help a few more. And there are going to be those that do that really well and others who do harm because they don't assess the needs. So I'm bringing it in just to say this. As we are a panel here together today and tomorrow of different expertise, young women here that have started new projects, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, but still very grounded and realistic. We see women who've had a long run in some of this work already. We see different kinds of interacting, levels of knowledge and expertise, and there certainly needs to be way more. There's only 20 here in total. But we represent a sample group. I want us to think a little bit about how do we find the compassion and the knowledge and expertise collated, researched, built into strong enough microcosmic form. This is why I'm doing this, because I believe this is how it begins. And it has begun already, but it's kind of activating it a little bit beyond those who are very SDG focused. Is those who are interested in sustainability, those who do see, oh yes, it would be really nice to actually take better care of each other. And those who do have to have a skill set to deal with those who simply will never do that. And this is what my biggest calling for my life's work is the compassion and the ability to still push on and create enough critical mass that will. Because there are those who just simply cannot and will not. And they will always be on the planet. They have been here all the time. We are those people at some points in time too. We carry that collective shadow as humanity. We have all manifested this paradigm the way it is. We've all been creation as it looks. So once we take that responsibility and we see, oh yes, I want to make it better, we can. But there are many who haven't seen that yet and will not for a while. So I'm hanging that just as a little star in the sky and putting hope in it too, because I do think there is a way where we can create enough critical mass. And there are a lot of young, amazing people who are looking at the world and really thinking they've got to do something to fix it. And we're going to be hearing from them very soon. One is actually on her way to moving out of young into our tribe of older women. Her name is Justina Pluktater. She works on education. And she's in Czech Republic doing a nice, I would say, normalized job in helping young people and their educational aspirations navigate the uncertainty in the future. And I wanted to offer an opportunity to share a bit more about who she is, what she does. But I do so because I thought it was very important to include in today's younger vision that has a real caring nature for the planet. I met her years ago in Cyprus, and she worked on the Untitled Women of Truth conference last year and really helped me through a very delicate time to navigate the old form of that into an international movement, which is now called Women of Truth. It was called Untitled. Viola Edwards was one of our first speakers, and partnered with Heleniq, as you've heard. Justina helped us with that, but she also ran many different projects through Erasmus. European collaboration on education and youth is one of her main areas. And I want you to tell us where you're at, Justina, what you're seeing now and what you think about the future and the whole subject of sustainability as you see it playing out in educational institutions, in Erasmus projects and how young people are beginning to pivot and run away from these bigger global issues. What's your take on that? Share with us. Lovely to have you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Heleniq, for introducing and also inviting me to this amazing circle of amazing ladies who are sharing this work and ideas on the SDGs. So first of all, I would like just to introduce myself a little bit more, but Heleniq already did with this. Yeah, I'm actually, my background is with the educational institutions. I'm working with international educational projects for a bit more than 10 years, mainly with Erasmus projects. I have been working in the university, in NGO, like educational institutions, now working in vocational school in Czech Republic. I have been living in Cyprus. This is where we met as well with Heleniq. So my work mainly was connected to the students, youth, teachers, professors, and so on. So maybe I would like to share a little bit some of the maybe insight related to the SDG and education and youth. And I would like to share my screen, yeah, and to make a presentation shortly. So yes, so we are here talking about those sustainable goals, sustainable development goals, and today for me is a talk about the quality of education, which is the focus on inclusive and equitable quality of education, and especially focusing on lifelong learning. This is also where I'm come from the background, because I do believe strongly about lifelong learning, which should be a continuous process. So focusing on the youth. So we saw during the pandemic that 91% of all the learners who are from schools, kindergarten, basic schools, universities, they were affected all around the world. 194 countries were affected by that in very different levels. They had different strategies, whether to close the whole country's schools. Some of them, they were more local. Some of them, they are already opening up. So I could also give a little bit examples from the Czech Republic, that we also having blended mobility, blended learning, where we change. We are still a little bit opening up the classes, like for students, and still going online. Yeah. So I just, before going in a bit more in details, I wanted to talk about the youth today. Who are they? So we're focusing today maybe more, I would focus more about the youth who are like 18 years old or to up to 30. Because it's another topic as well to talk about the younger generation, the kids, and the education is a bit different. So as it was mentioned before by lots of speakers, nowadays this crisis is it's actually, yes, it's a challenge, but also is giving opportunities. So youth now will have increased uncertainty about their education, about their lives, how is it going to be, the new normal, let's say, proceeding, and uncertainty about the employment. It will be increased in comparison to the not so long time ago. We had around 10 years ago, we had another crisis, and we're just backing up, and then we have this strike again. So we will need to come back to the keeping up our work more. We see also about the rise of the mental health crisis with all this social distancing and social isolation. We're becoming more maybe lonely society in general, this generation, with all this, technology, which also gives a lot of advantage. And we see also the challenge in marginalization, which will make us more unequal, whether we have like this access to all this technology and solutions that the changes in education will going to provide. But I would like to say that young people are resilient, they are flexible, they can adapt, they are proactive by moving towards their goals, they are speaking up about their rights. We have great, strong institutions, organizations who are moving forward for that. Even now, like right now, there's youth event, European youth event is happening right now, which had to happen physically, but because of the COVID, it's shifted again into the online platform with the discussions. They have series of webinars where they inspire the young people, they inviting different different actors to be involved, to act, to support. So we are seeing different initiatives. And also the young generation, youth, they are getting used to, from the early age, with the playing or being aware or how to use the digital tools, because this is where we're going. Of course, not everybody has the access, and as the previously it was saying, and SDGs are pointing out, especially the ones who have very limited access to it. So I wanted to just point out several just my thoughts about the future of the education. How can it shift? What I see from different talks, discussions, from the different plans that where the Europe is identifying. So of course, the major talk is about digitalization, which is also connected with artificial intelligence or augmented reality, all this technology development, chatbot who can help you in your learning process, more personal. But again, as it was talked before, there's going to be a limited access to it. And this crisis actually pointed out more how deep is the challenge is, because we already had Europe had already, and the world had already plans to have more digital tools in education. But now it showed how, like in Lithuania, for example, because I'm originally from Lithuania. So the schools, they realized that how many kids in the homes, they don't have the laptops. So they initiated the purchases of the laptops. Here in Czech Republic, in our school, where I work, they also initiated different ways. We also delivered by paper tests or so on, so that the kids could also do the exercises or like having learning material. There were ways how to overcome these obstacles. But still, what I see also, and what we have the strategies towards the more ways how we can improve the education. We have projects that are going towards the digitalization, and I'm working in a vocational school, and we see actually one of the biggest challenge now is that young people, they don't have the access to the practical training where they have to practice their skills. They don't have the access to the technology, their equipment, and so on, because they are stuck at home. The other thing is that what we see the way how it will be taught later on, it's will be changed in the coming couple of years. Definitely, all the institutions are already thinking how to do it when we will still continue have this restrictions and because of the COVID and fear for the second wave and so on. because of the uncertainty. So even Cambridge University it was the kind of one of the first educational institution that stated that they're going to be online fully for the next academic year. All the young people who wants to attend the education, they have this uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen and how they are going to be learning. So our institution, for example, they are going to have a mix of that. They will already teachers are planning to have that blended learning process where they will have some certain number of hours taught by online tools and having those homeworks done like that, and then have a little part of when you have the physical training, physical classes when you are in a classroom. Because again, the forecast is that we will have reduced number of kids in the classroom, which also gives the opportunity to have more individual learning. But again, this is a bit demanding for the teacher to cope with these numbers. So this is kind of a close future plan in this case. There is really big concern, and of course there was a big test for the teachers because not everybody was ready to go online. There were lots of improvisation and so on, and we had to do it right now. We had to change right now. And there's a different opinions about it. Different teachers or professors, they have different level of that knowledge, first of all, and others, they also don't want to do this. And so they had really different levels. And there's going to be a very big focus on the teachers training, on the how to use different tools to teach in these conditions, what we are going to have in the future. Then for a very long time, there was a lot of discussion on the change of the role of the teacher, that he or she has to be more as a mentor and tutor, as a facilitator in the journey of the learning. And it was very hard to change the teacher's personal way, that not to stand in front of the class and just teach, but be just a guide for this journey of learning. So we see right now that actually this role is changing more and has more meaning to it for the different teachers. Another aspect is we will need to change the way how we assess the whole learning process, how we're going to evaluate the students and the whole education. If we have this kind of different levels of the learning paths. There will be very huge need for the social and mental health support, because again, the digital learning and spending hours and hours in front of the computer, it helps really big health issues. And other thing is that when you're lots of kids right now and is youth, when they're learning at home, they're missing out the campus feeling. They're missing out of this social level of the education, when they can exchange the ideas and so on. Yes, educational and online platforms give this amazing opportunity when we can share, but it is still limited but per hours what we can spend online. We have, the support, it will be very needed. So from the professionals, like in institutions and from the other organizations. We see also decreased number of mobilities, and this is going to be the future for the coming up. So there's a big concern regarding Erasmus projects, how they are going to be continue with as the mobilities was and is one of the important part of this cultural exchange, the knowledge exchange boost when you have that opportunity to meet different people at the same time. And it's what the youth organizations like European Student Network and so on, they are stressing out. Virtual exchanges will never can replace the actual mobility and interaction. There will be increased number of internalization at home initiatives, which is really great in a way, that there will be coming more people who can create this multicultural environment for the youth, even at home. There's a really big focus going to be on reskilling and upskilling, so that the young people can adapt to the different changes in the market, in the labor market, and can find the ways how to overcome those challenges in the economy. And other things that I want to mention is that increase of those tailor-made or high-class learning paths like master classes. There will be a huge need, and there will be more of the ways how you're going to be learning, self-learning way. So you will be going, maybe learning even right now, people are turning into like learning how to cook better, how to knit, how to draw, and so on. So this tendency will continue. So these was just my thoughts, what I hear from the different institutions or speakers, experts, what they're seeing and identifying. And I just wanted to mention some of the actions that are happening or initiatives that right now is initiated. So of course, one of the things that I would like to put on the table is, of course, it's Erasmus, which is very important, which is the platform where the educators can exchange their ideas. And what you were mentioning before, it's about the partnership. Different institutions are sharing their ideas and solving the problems. And I can tell you right now that even like in Czech Republic, it was a record number of the applications for Erasmus funding seen this year in comparison to the previous years. So there's more institutions taking actions in order to tackle those problems with their solutions. So there are more actions going on and more active organizations making those steps. So we will see most probably more strength in that. I can also mention also about hackathons, which is like the Accelerator also where I also participated with some initiatives related to the healthcare actually. And they're organized, usually they are organized personal, but now the online platforms can invite more people, more diverse people, act now to do actions and create the solutions, think about the ideas how to solve those problems. As one of the example, it was recently, almost a month ago, European Commission, they organized the EU VC crisis, EU VC virus hackathon, where participate 20,000 participants from around the world. And there were almost 3,000 ideas, proposals submitted for the solving the problems of during the pandemic. And there are more of those initiated hackathons where they solve those problems. And the private sector and other NGOs and different governmental organizations are stepping up to support those ideas. Mentioning accelerators, and I know that I'm not sure if Simona will be coming, one of the also speaker. She's also initiating social business accelerators, where people are supporting those initiatives who are coming also to solve the problems. Also, I just want to mention that just this Thursday, European Commission announced the new plan, revised plans for the coming up period, and also how to tackle this challenge. And Next Generation EU is the new plan from the European Commission that is focused on the having recovery plan to turn all this challenge into an opportunity and tackle it within the European Green Deal and the digitalization, which will focus also on the youth unemployment and the problems that are there. There's planned 750 billion extra euros to put on the different initiatives and different platforms to solve these problems. And in total, with the revision, there's 1.85 trillion euros that are going to be focused on the tackling those challenges. I also want to mention that it was mentioned that businesses has to step up and make the change. So Global Education Coalition unites different businesses like Zoom, Facebook, Google, and so on to step up and help the education in the world, and also to support the developed countries and so on, to provide the simple laptops, internet, and so on, different ways. And also, it was mentioned before that every person can make the difference. So European Union is also making a call, so to share the ideas how to tackle these challenges. I can just show you, if you would see that. European youth ideas. So as we are tackling the youth challenges, this is also an initiative from European Commission, where they are identifying specific different challenges, and they are asking everyone who has some ideas, just submit it for European Commission, so that they can take into account when they are planning their strategies to have it maybe as a solutions. And there, as to regards to SDG, I see there are some similarities, but I really truly agree with the speakers here today that there is needed more partnership and then more united collaboration and work towards those goals. Yeah. So this was my intake towards this topic. If there will be some questions, I will be open to discuss further.
I have a question. So I think that the European youth ideas is great, except like we've already discussed the fact that the world isn't really universal on a scale. And being a student now, I'm wondering if will education be taking in consideration students' opinions? Because I know so far in the last block, it's been like crisis management. So it's not a realistic representation of like the planning to come ahead. But all I've seen as a student, and like in my university and several other ones, is that the feedback that students are giving to their specific professors, specific to the university or to the high school, is just not being listened to. And maybe it's just because it's crisis management, so like all of us can deal with it. But then I know, for example, a lot of students wanting to go abroad for university, or like just going abroad for high school or whatever, you need to have that confirmation of what's going to happen next year, and like knowing that you can have open communication with your professor. So I'm wondering if there's another platform to do that than just European youth ideas, because of course this is good for Europe, but then other parts of the world who have education and don't have an institution like this, what are they to do?
Yeah, and just to add to that, because it's on the same point, even my kids are 6 and 8, and for them, the current home learning sort of methodology is very unmotivating. I mean, it's almost like asking them to do homework on a daily basis instead of once a week. When you go back to the teachers, they say, okay, I'll talk to your children, I'll motivate them. But again, you know, there has to be a revisiting of the entire school system if we were to be going with homeschooling for an extended period of time. You know, rewards and recognition needs to change. Motivation schemes, interaction and social connection. I mean, at the end of the day, they are not meeting any of their friends. They connect for 15 minutes with a teacher in a group. Again, so this is one aspect. Another aspect that comes to mind here is relating to employers and how they can support caregivers. So at the moment, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not facing that. But even then, I'm really, as a mother, you know, struggling to balance between work and life. I think that comes. I think
لا لا الحجم كبير، اللمبه الحجم كبير.
ايوه 100 واط مش مفيش خالص.
هات 100 بس هي المايك لا يعني مفيش نص ما فيش. ايه المكان اللي دخلته ما لقيتش فيه. الكلام ده ما ينفعش. دول مش هينفع.
Hello, may I add something here?
المفروض الشاشه
Hi, Justina, can you stop your sharing on the screen? And whoever is unmuted, can you mute? Maybe it's Rada. Okay, sorry, I couldn't get back to the screen because of the shared screen. Are you finished now? You want to wrap that up?
Yeah, just to wrap it up, I think for private sector companies, there is a need to revisit, you know, policies for supporting caregivers and potentially supporting parents with tutoring, because at the end of the day, we are not teachers. Even if we support our kids on a day-to-day basis, it's just to tick the box on completion of homework, but I'm not really sure if they're actually getting the learning objectives. So I think this is very important.
Justina, do you feel equipped to answer any of those, or do you want to give a quick opinion? And then we're going to go to Viola, who's going to give us an overview of everything.
Can I comment on the employers and the private sector taking more responsible role here? I think it's really interesting. I want to comment on both. First, let's start by women and what the COVID has shown, that mobility is possible, that in fact women can work from home and still be productive, provided that we obviously provide a framework where she doesn't have to also be the caregiver of the children, educating them at home while she's also working and doing everything. But I think we're going to start to see shifts on two fronts, on more flexibility, offering women mobility in terms of what they can do, where they can do it from, which used to be a big challenge, particularly for younger moms. We're going to see also employers who are trying to reduce the fixed cost of space like offices. They're going to actually revert to the easier solution or a better solution, hopefully for all, like giving women more flexible hours and times. In terms of the caregiving and caretaking, assuming we go back to a physical world within a year or two, where we, and I'm very much into, I don't want to go into active inertia where we revert to doing things exactly as they used to be done. It is an opportunity right now where we can probably learn from the possibility of working from home, the possibility of working remotely. But yes, solutions in terms of providing maybe having a daycare center nearby, providing some daycare support for moms that are working. I think the better and the bigger solution will be giving her the flexibility to work when she wants, as long as she is producing and delivering, and giving her the control over where she would like to be, as opposed to forcing her to physically be present, especially if that can be avoided. On the go ahead. On the education, let me just say also that on the education front, if you look at it holistically, from a private sector perspective, from employers' perspective, there is a recognition of various things. There is a recognition that one, they need to offer customers that are extremely demanding now and have had a different behavior and experience, they need to offer more sustainable value. Part of the sustainable value is the investment they will make in people. whether it's their people, employees that they currently have on staff and how they're upskilling, retooling them, or the communities they're operating in. And I'll tell you that one of the biggest struggles has been, it's not just in Egypt, I think it's globally, we continue to have a huge gap between the skills needed to, in today's world and post-COVID, or the multi-chapters of COVID world we're going to be living through. And the skills needed are going to require support from the private sector, from a new curriculum that needs to be rewritten by if we have the courage from educators to really go and revisit that and invest in doing it and testing it, listening to the voices of the young people that we have, and all of them globally, that are really telling us what is needed. But going to employers, I'll tell you that because there is a gap between what they will need in terms of skills and what's available, they will have no choice. I don't think it's a question of choice anymore. I think they're going to have to participate on one level or another. We have a scholarship foundation, and it has always been agnostic, regardless of major, obviously 50-50 women, men, but it was to provide exposure, skills, and skill young people so they can be able to travel, experience the world, come back and work in Egypt. The only condition is that they come back and work in Egypt, and not just with us, just any major and any field. I think you'll find more and more investment in the area of education and support. We do scholarships for teachers, we do scholarships for students, postgraduate, and we also do for young kids. We even intervene in areas where communities we're in to understand, by testing and doing the research, what are the barriers to kids attending, including things like glasses or food and meals, and how can we go and partner to remove some of those barriers. So while it may sound like an eternal optimist, I am not. I'm just really realizing that I think I'm not alone, and I think there's more and more chief sustainability officers over the past 4 years than I've ever seen in my career. I'm one of them, but we're starting to see them globally. And that's a recognition that companies and the private sector is realizing the role, and their success cannot just be based on profit to a shareholder. They're changing. The more we speak, the more we create advocacy, the more we create pressure, they will feel the force that in order to be legitimate, in order to succeed, in order to protect their reputation, they're going to have to change their value propositions to become much more meaningful, beneficial, and inclusive than they have been. So I think it's just, this is part of the form, and that one is trying to have a voice in, but it's about all of us coming together, continuing the pressure. It's the pressure from the students, from the teachers, from the employees, on private sector, on governments. The status quo will not continue, will not succeed. It's just not enough. It's proven to fail. We have had a global failure with this health crisis, and the economies failed because the economies were not focused on any sustainable preservation on health or education or well-being or any of the. We need a new social contract. And this is, to me, as far as I'm concerned, young people will say it before me. This will not continue. They will not allow it to continue. Greta Thunberg, I think is her name. I mean, was when a child stands up there and shames leaders. When we hear this young lady here with us on the panel, the new generation wants more. They deserve more. And they will not let the private sector or governments get away with doing things the way they used to get to do it. So the pressure is there. We all have to be part of that pressure and action, obviously. Thank you.
Khara, thanks again for some great input. And I want to move to Viola. I know she's also wanted to express some opinion throughout. And we're going to move to Justina. If you do have an answer to what was addressed to you as questions first, if you do, otherwise we go to Viola. You do? Go ahead, say a few words, and then we'll move to Viola.
Yeah. So first of all, that are really good points that you were stressing out. And definitely education has many different aspects that they're challenged right now from very different levels. And first of all, Chiara, it's true what is the going on right now, and it's a big challenge. Like if you really heard in the top, that they would really take your opinion into account. I can definitely just say that there are youth organizations, institutions that they are really working, and they are, what it was mentioned before, they're demanding that they are entitled to speak up and to have a right for the quality of education, have the access, and to have this kind of because nowadays the education has a very also sudden strike, and all those teachers who were how to say very politely were suggesting to go digital or to have the more different innovative way of teaching were slightly postponing things, and now they had to be in such shock. Oh my god, what I need to do, I need to change the whole way of teaching. And this shock was so big entirely. 194 countries now facing this and continually doing that. And they were in such a big shock, nobody was ready for that. So even just like in front of with these Zoom meetings and having paper on the wall from their homes, they started to draw things and do this. It doesn't replace any of the education that is normal. And there are so many different tools online. You can just Google it, but teachers they were also lost in the dispersity of these opportunities, and there is no consultation, so focus to consult them. What is the tool that help them in teaching? So this is very good point that Noah was mentioning, that there's really needed a sustainable way how the institutions would teach, how to teach, how to proceed with the students' learning, and also parents, to teach parents, if there will be a continuous education in such way, how to deal with it, how there's really increase also thought of house schooling. Very big, some of the parents, they start to think more, maybe I would just next coming years, because of this uncertainty, they will turn into homeschooling. But again, are they qualified? Do they have those tools that they will be in a quality way? So just these comments that education system is in shock, and there are many tools, but there is no systematic or cohesion way how to teach them. So many teachers. Currently there are really big and good and quickly reacted initiatives like eTwinning. They started to do the creating the platforms where teachers can exchange their ideas, how they are doing, how they are solving these problems. There are webinars organized by different institutions. But again, everyone is taking their steps, but there is no that cohesion way. Yeah, just those points. Heleniq, I think you needed to be unmuted.
Thank you so much, Justina. Thank you. And I just want to share two things before we move to an overview from Viola. Firstly, I did actually work on a startup that was looking to pair up teachers with students online. And even mentoring that group made it very clear that we are in crisis. This is a crisis in education, and a crisis means we are going to be in shock and, of course, in a kind of survival mode. So that means the adrenaline is high. People are really patchworking the educational system. We had Dr. Ruby on a masterclass talking about university level, and the whole impact of a year's time knowledge creation in what we've suffered through COVID is real. So we are looking at people losing 1 year of education. But ultimately, there has been cracks in the educational system since the beginning of its creation. And I was working in schools, many of you might know that work already, with drumming and looking at how important that interactive component is for education. And more than that, how important it is to actually activate children's multiplicity of learning. And this is somehow being created here, and it's not driven correctly yet. It's not structured or frameworked really, but it will become, and I hope it will become, a very important facet of how children do learn in the future. We will have to realize the dehumanization of computer learning. Obviously, that's what we're realizing, which is a very good thing. So I want to shed some good light on it, to know that that is not a solution. And of course, we have to be patient as everybody gets on board and realizes there are certain things that have to be done. Second point is there's a very significant need right now, and I've heard from young women specifically on this. I don't have access to a lot of the young men, on internships. So if any of you have access to anyone that is looking for support right now, it's a beautiful way to matchmake. Young interns are looking for placements. If you know of businesses that are in crisis and they need help, perfect opportunity for you to get an intern. If you are willing to mentor young women coming out of university, and or you can transition them into internships, apprenticeships, any kind of shadow work. If you want to sign up with the European Commission, we have that in process with Simona Simulite from Lithuania. She works on an amazing project called Changemakers On, and we collaborate a lot. So if you have ways to do this kind of mentoring yourself, or you know networks that can and want to, and you feel like you want to be part of this revolution in education and the sustainable revolution, thanks to Ghada, then we have a really beautiful way to matchmake you. Thursdays in the Women of Truth group, we already have a post going there called Internships and Mentoring. We already have about 5 students, high-level educated women, like Chiara's group of colleagues and peers that are women in an organization called Women in Innovation and Leadership. And they are looking often for humanitarian-based social entrepreneurial projects to work on. So Nasiba, you've reached out to me. Go and put yourself there as a mentor. Anyone else who's interested, that knows even businesses that could be interested in formal internships, put yourself there and say what it is, because that's what we can do to help put you together. And then you would need to be in charge of taking that relationship, nurturing it to the point it needs to actually turn into some educational supplementary process. But really, we can solve this issue quite easily. It doesn't have to wait for businesses to go into action again. There are many entrepreneurs connected to many different projects where a lot of these women can learn grassroots entrepreneurial work, and they can actually become networked into some global projects. And we have the resource amongst us for that. So let's see what we can do. And it's already on a Thursday in the comments under the name and the specific internship that they're looking for. And they also are open to mentoring. Some want very specific people, like they need a lawyer or a this or a that. And some are open to something general. So even if you know NGOs or organizations that are in crisis right now or not, you know, refer them on, and the young student can actually go and look and do her research and at least follow some path to maybe lead her somewhere, so we can help network them. And I've put the link up on the group here. It's also on the Facebook Live for this. And many of you are in that group already. You just have to answer questions to come in, and that's on Thursdays. We're doing that. And on Tuesdays, we want to open it out to anyone who runs an organization for women or on women's issues and or education or health in general. Health, education, and women. On Tuesdays, you can post whatever you like on behalf of the organization, not as an individual. Please do it so that we know there's some formal structure around it, because that way we can actually start partnering and matchmaking even more these internship type ideas with those who need them. Over to you, Viola, your wonderful, wonderful insights on all of what you've heard today, and lead us into gender, because next is Nasiba Akhtar, a gender activist on gender.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to do 2 interventions, but then Noha and Ghada, I couldn't have done it better than them. It's beautiful, very complete. So, but what in what we were talking before, what I wanted to say about this time and education, I think in my own practice as psychotherapist, the women who suffer more stress on the edge of burnout during COVID-19, it's the woman who is an entrepreneur, businesswoman, and have small kids. So all my respect to you, women of this group. I don't know how you did it, because I know that we were working so hard, Heleniq, you and me, and we don't have children. we have partners, but we don't have children, and we were really, our health get a little bit shaky. So first of all, I want to acknowledge you all. It was such a challenge. And the other thing I wanted to say that I'm part of the IBF, International Breathwork Foundation, and International Breathwork Foundation was working actively to find and to support you mothers and teachers in the house and before we were starting in the classroom. So I'm going to send the link for you and and a magazine that Business Fit magazine had published some of these studies, and those studies are going to the UN also now. So it's conscious breathing in the classroom. I would love to talk with you, Justina, to see how we can partner for that. It's a whole study and is already translated to so many languages. And as the classroom was closed, so they created something very beautiful called emergency kit for parents, emergency kit for parents and children and kids. And it's because during challenges, we connect with other challenges that we had in life, and our breath get also challenged. So the important thing to have consciousness in our breath and how also bring joy and laughter and creativity to the way how we're doing the educational process. And I think one of the things that Noha was talking is about the system was set in such a quick way, and then you didn't have time to play with your children and to in the process of educational time. And of course, children were bored and they didn't want to go in front of the computer. But anyway, as Justina say, we're in our humanity, school and education did their best, but definitely we need to breathe into those systems, Justina. We need to put that conscious breathing into it. And this is something I want to tell you. The other thing I would like to mention here, and I think it was Saskia or somebody else when we said all is systemic. So the conscious breathing I practice is systemic breathing, and it's my pleasure to support you, to guide you, to train you in your different areas. We have different training according to where you are, into including this systemic breathing into your daily life, and also to be able for you to be able to share it with your co-worker, with your colleague, and wherever you are serving in the world. It's very important. Also, the IBF, International Breathwork Foundation, has another program to work with trauma and recovery from trauma. And I have another program for recovery from addiction. So if we are alive, it's because we are breathing, and we need to put that consciousness about it. And then as we breathe consciously, then we can think and live and act more consciously. And this is what the word is asking us today. I took a note when we need a new social contract. Ghada was saying we need a new social contract. And it's true, we need a new social contract. We need that, but how we can do it if our health and our connection with life is not there. The other thing I wanted to share with you, that I was part in the 2001 of one of the engaging people's full potential in a global economy. And since then, we were already talking about sustainability, and the virtual world was just starting, and we were talking about sustainability. So I think sustainability for me is like breathing itself, is like the old new technology, the old new subject. It was accompanying us for many, many years, but now it seems like we have so many more people engaged and willing to, and this is where we are here as Saturday all together with smiles in our face, even though our back could be a little bit hurting because of long hours sitting to the whole week. And to finalize, I would like to share with you this, that as you know, I'm an eternal student, and recently, I know it has been in the world for a long time, but actually recently, last year, I find out about B Corp, and how B Corp is an accelerating a global culture shift to redefine success in business and build a more inclusive and sustainable economy. So I'm gonna read it to you because we have little time, and you're gonna get from this paragraph what I wanted to say. Society's most challenging problem cannot be solved by government and non-profit organization alone. The B Corp community works toward reduce inequality, lower level of poverty, a healthier environment, stronger community, and the creation of more high-quality jobs with dignity and purpose. By harnessing the power of business, B Corp use profits and growth as a means to a greater and positive impact for their employees, community, and the environment. And B Corp is coming from benefit. We're not talking again about profit, we're talking about benefit. But of course, we need to have productivity, like this same summit. We needed to be productive. So I'm a business consultant B, as we are called, but I'm part of a bigger team. And doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, if you would like, please connect with B Corp. They started much before the 2015, but now it's getting more and more. And especially, I'm so pleased that in South America is really penetrating even governance, local governance. There is B Bank. There is, I'm fascinated with all what I'm finding with that. So we are creating a good community of B Corp consultant and educator and mentors and whatever our name is, but how aligned is that with the SDGs? So, and in a last note, I want to thank you all, and especially thank Heleniq for creating all these. As you can see, it's not easy. And bravo, Heleniq. And yeah, thank you very much for this space.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
breathe.
Thank you so much. Always reminding us to breathe and to be consciously breathing in every moment. So we're going to do 3 more synchronizing breaths together. 1, 2, 3. We're going to breathe. The more global issues I choose to focus on, the more my breathing suffers. So I think I need to breathe again. 1, 2, 3. And exhaling. And one last time. We're breathing, Rada, with us all together. 1, 2, 3, breathing. Beautiful.
There is some application. Go into Breathe Ease in your smartphone and do this very nice square breathing. You breathe in 6, you stop in 6, you exhale in 6, and you stop in 6. And you do that 2, 3 times. It's very important, or whatever you can. And different breathing technique like the Heleniq is giving us now. And please connect with me. So I give you different technique according to where you are in this moment of your life. But definitely we need to take it to children, because children teach us how to breathe, and their breath start getting dysfunctional because they learn from us how we go into stress. And we need to help them to keep that genuine breathing for so much longer. So also we can learn from them, because they learn from us how to inhibit their breathing, and much more to talk about.